What's up guys, I'm Shawn Gonzalez and this is Gonzalez Films. Today I'm going to show you guys how to flock the Schneider Cinelux ES Anamorphic projector lens. So this is a DIY video and attempt at your own risk. So let's get right into it. Hey guys, so the purpose of this video was I was going to flock the inside of my Schneider Cinelux ES. I did one of the two that I own. Both of them are identical. They're both the same lens, except one is flocked and the other one isn't. And I really wanted to show you guys how to do that. If you don't know what flocking is, it basically just means taking a dark suede black material and installing it on the inner barrel walls of the lens, which I did to this lens. I'm going to show you guys right now. I'm going to turn this light on. This way you guys can see what it looks like, what flocking does, and if you would possibly need it. This video was just basically going to be like a comparison video with and without the flock lens, just to show you guys what it does, but I figured why not show you guys how to do it along the way. So this is the flocking material right here. It's just a big velvet or suede type of material. One side is sticky, the other side is just the flock material. It comes in these big sheets and it's very prone to picking up dust or fibers in the air, or like pet hair, cat or dog hair. So you guys have to be really careful when handling this. I have a dog, so I have to try to keep it as clean as possible. So basically what it does is it absorbs all the light that goes into the lens that causes that dreaded, ugly, veiling glare that no one really likes. Right here's the flocked lens, and you can see how black the barrel walls are. It's not really letting in a lot of light to bounce around. You don't see any reflections, any glowing going on, and that's really what you want. Before I flocked it, it looked like this one right here. I'll admit the inside looks really cool and futuristic and all, but look how much light's bouncing around and there's a lot of reflection going on, a lot of glowing, and all that will show up on camera in the corners, and it's not good at all. I want to show you guys how to do this, and I want to show you what tools you're going to need. So I have my two lenses right here. You need the flocking sheets. They come in a pack of 10 or 15, 8.5 by 11 in size, and you can get them on Amazon for like $10 or $15. All those links will be in the description down below. There is adhesive on the back of these, so if you peel it back, be careful because they're very sticky. So you have the flocking material. You need a straight cutter or scissors, some type of paper tape to help get rid of all the loose fuzzy fibers that is already on the black flocking sheets because it's very prone to picking it up, like I said earlier. You can see how much comes off. Just repeat this step until it's clean. You need some vinyl gloves. This way you can protect your lens from getting any type of fingerprints on the inside once it's sealed up as well. You're going to need an Allen key for the two front screws, the lock and the focus, a small screwdriver for the 4 screws in the front. There's 4 screws on the side, and there's also 4 screws on the rear of the lens. There's 2 holes in between the 4 screws on the side of the lens, and there's some type of glue on the inside of them, and that has to be completely removed before disassembling the lens. You should be able to get into the inner housing of the lens by sliding it up, but before you do that, make sure you remove the 4 screws on the back. There's 2 rings with 2 screws each that come off that'll release the rear glass elements with no problem. Now, working through the back of the lens, it can be done, but it's way harder to do and is very risky because of the sticky glue and the small opening that you're working through. The gold part of the lens is holding the rear glass in place, while the front is held in by the black inner housing, which is shorter, and that moves back and forth for focusing. So once you're able to pull the lens apart, there's going to be 2 little metal pieces that fall out. They're in a gold color. One controls the focusing and one controls the locking. So this is the lens that I'm going to be flocking for you guys to show you how it's done. It's actually in a custom 3D printed housing that I designed specifically for the Cinelux. It has everything that I need to be able to use this lens. It's got your 3 clamp screws. It's got an 85mm built-in threading, a built-in lens support for 15mm rails. There's actually 2 of them. And I figured I'd build this custom housing to make it easier for me actually to use in the long run. Instead of ordering parts that could take weeks at a time, it's easier for me to use my FVD24A on this. It screws directly onto the front, no clamps, no adapter rings needed. And that's what I like about it. This setup is really strong, it feels sturdy, and I'll show you guys the whole entire setup, everything put together at the end of the video. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but on this lens I stripped the screw a little over a year ago when I first attempted this plan. But now that I have the right tools, I'm going to try it again, and I'm back with vengeance on this one. It's basically just a drill with an extracting tool for after you drill into the screw, and it was only like $15. I'm just going to drill this screw and hopefully the extractor pulls it out. Before I do that, I'm going to put some tape on the glass with a couple layers of paper tape, just in case. You never know. It's just to be on the safe side. Plus the paper tape doesn't leave any type of residue behind. And I really hope that none of the other screws get stripped when I'm trying to remove them. I was able to drill the screw, but it broke in half inside the lens. I was going to record it, but I wasn't really sure on how long it was going to take. But I did get the top flat part out that was holding it down. Now I can take out the 3 remaining screws and disassemble the lens. I want to move this one over here so we can work on this guy. Now I can take out the 3 remaining screws and disassemble the lens. And this is my main lens, the one that's in the 3D printed jacket. Alright, so let's start taking it apart. We're just going to remove the 3 remaining front screws. And I shot all the comparison test videos before I started taking this lens apart. And that video is going to be separate because this one's going to be already long enough. So I figured I would just link it down below for you guys. After the 4 screws are removed, the top cover comes right off. Now we're going to remove the rear lens, but first I'm going to add some marks just so I know what the top of the lens is. You guys don't have to do this, but it just helps me remember easier. Now we're going to remove these 2 screws, but remember to keep all of your screws separate. This way you don't mix any of them up. Since you're removing the rear glass optic, you're going to have to realign your lens vertically, so this way you get a nice, sharp, clear image and not a skewed one. This ring will come right out and reveal the 2 remaining screws, which are vertical instead of horizontal. That's why I have the tape to help me out. Before I remove the last 2 screws, I'm going to put on my glove on my left hand to touch the glass optic. I don't want to get fingerprints all over it. You can use 2 gloves if you want, but this is the only hand that I'm going to be touching it with. So once you unscrew the remaining screws, the rear glass element is going to fall right out, and it's going to have a copper ring that goes around it, and that's most likely a spacer ring. There you go, came right out. I'm going to place that to the side. There's 2 glass elements in this piece and 2 in the front cemented together, and you can see straight into the barrel to the front glass rear on the inside. As you can see, it's really small and hard to work through one side, and you don't want to risk getting any of that adhesive on the lens on the inside. So I'm going to remove these 4 screws, but be careful you don't strip any of them. Put some pressure on it so it doesn't slip. These were on there pretty tight. One of them almost got stripped, so I just may replace it, but it still works only with 3 screws, no big deal. You don't have to have any extras. This last one was an issue, but it came out safe. I'm going to remove the 2 Allen key screws to see if the inner barrel loosens at all. As you can see, this screw was almost an issue too, but I was able to unscrew it safely. I assume the culprit is the little loose piece that goes around the screw on the inside. I had the same issue on the other Cinelux. You can see the lens moves up and down, but it's still kind of tight in there. It won't come out. Maybe it's the screw or the glue holding it in there, but I do have a drill, so I'm just going to use that. It should be pretty easy to remove. Now that I cleared the glue away, be careful when you do it. Don't use a lot of pressure, just enough to clear most of it out. You should be able to remove the entire black barrel by now, but for some reason mine's stuck in here pretty good. I didn't have this issue with the previous Cinelux, but luckily now you can just push out the front lens from the inside on the back. Now we're going to grab some gloves again because we're touching the glass. It's funny, everything I didn't want to go wrong with this lens is going wrong with this lens. But don't worry, all lenses are different, they're not all the same. You may not run into any of these issues. But then again, these lenses are around 25-30 years old, so just a heads up. After you start pushing the glass from the inside, make sure you rotate the barrel to apply even pressure because there's 4 tracks on the lens and you don't want any of them to break off. As you can see, it's coming out pretty easy. Just be careful when you're doing it. And you can see right here, there's 2 tracks on each side of the lens. When it goes back in, it can go in either way as long as the lens is right side up and the tracks align perfectly. If we can't get the black inner housing out of the gold housing, that's no problem. We can still flock the lens as long as both lenses are removed from both sides. Alright, so I already installed the top side of the flocking material. I'm going to show you the bottom and one side only because it's time consuming to get it right, and you need about 4 pieces, 2 inches or 2.5 inches for each one, and the top and bottom is wider so there's more coverage. Before you install them, clean them up as much as you can with the tape, but you're still going to do this again before you seal up the lens. You're going to remove the backing, but it's really sticky, so be careful. And I'm using a pair of pointing tweezers. You can use any tweezers. These are just the only ones that I can find at the moment. Make sure the adhesive side doesn't touch the suede side because it will leave residue behind. You're going to install it from the back of the lens to the front very slow. Try to get it as straight in the center of the lens as possible. Once you have it in place, pinch it down with your thumb so it stays put, then align the edges where the glass stops and push it down so it sticks to the barrel. The weird thing about the inside is that the barrel diameter changes from the back to the front on a curve, so the inside pieces can be tricky to cut. Maybe even cut the pieces out and don't take the sticky backing off and just kind of pre-fit them in there to see if they fit. Okay, so I did one side wall already. I'm going to show you the second side. And as you can see, there's a lot of trial and error cutting out this flocking material. So I'm going to remove the back, make sure you cleaned off all the fibers. Now I'm going to place it through the back of the lens while it's stuck on my finger. It's kind of hard to see, it's dark and the light is not reflecting anywhere, but that's actually what you want. Pinch it down, hold it in place and adjust the back with the tweezers, push it down and flatten the material. Now the entire inner barrel is 100% flocked. No light escaping or bouncing around at all. Now that it's covered, you want to apply even pressure throughout the entire lens. This way there's no air bubbles and it won't show up on camera. As long as you can see the clean circle on the back of the lens, you're going to have nice perfect oval bokeh. Now what you want to do is take that paper tape and try to clean out as much of those loose fibers as you possibly can. The next step is assembling the lens, but we're going to carefully wipe down the glass elements first. I'm just going to wipe down the front optic with these lens wipes. They're made by Zeiss. They work pretty well. I got those from the dollar store too. And I'm also going to use this microfiber cleaning cloth after that. Now it's time to place it back in the housing. Make sure all 4 tracks line up correctly so this way it goes in smoothly. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if it's upside down or right side up. Push it down slowly till it stops. Go all around the lens evenly like when you pushed it out. Quick wipe and so far so good. The next step is the 2 Allen key screws that go in the front. Be careful, just put them in there carefully. You don't want to scratch the front optic, and then gently tighten them into place. Next is the 4 side screws, which help with the focusing on the inside, but in my case I'm using 3 until I replace the 4th one, but it should still work just fine. Now you want to grab the front cover ring, put it on with the focusing line under the markings. I put it on backwards by accident, no big deal, I fixed it later. Grab all the small screws and tighten them in, but not over tighten. Now get the rear element, give it a good wipe down as well with the lens wipe and cloth. Before you set it into place, make sure that small copper ring is still on the lens before you put it in. When you place it down into the housing, set it in, it doesn't matter which way, as long as the vertical sides are up and down like the front. It just drops right in place without falling in. Take the rear inner ring with the 4 holes, place it in the back and adjust it accordingly. Put the 2 screws in, the top and the bottom, but don't tighten them. This way we can adjust and align the image like so by rotating it. So you want to get the lens ready to align, and in my case it's in the jacket, so I'll get it on rails to secure it. I'm going to add a UV filter to pick up some flares, this way I can align it correctly with a flare straight across the screen. I'm going to slide the Cinelux in, don't worry, it's snug and it will not fall out. I didn't tighten my Cinelux housing, this way I can find the alignment mark and I can easily remove the Cinelux and tighten those 2 screws and hold it in place. Now to find the perfect alignment and sharpness, make sure you're set to infinity on both lenses. This way all you have to do is rotate the rear glass perfectly vertical while watching the monitor to get a correct upright oval bokeh. Then all you have to do is move the lens closer to double check sharpness. Make sure you're zoomed in on your monitor to get as sharp as possible. Now that that's aligned perfectly, all you have to do is tighten the screws to lock it in place. Grab the top ring, lay it on there, and add the last 2 screws. Not overly tightened, but secure. Then give the glass a good wipe down on both sides, and maybe a little bit of air for some leftover dust. And that's basically it. Both of these guys are ready to use and shoot with. Make sure you guys check out some of the comparison test shots that I put together so you can see what it does and how it improves the image. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate the support. If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment down below for the type of videos that you guys want to see. And I'll see you guys on the next one. That was good.